Banjo Kazooie, a game that released a year before I was born, in the year 1998, on the N64. Developed by Rare, the studio that made a game that took advantage of the hardware and the joystick of the N64 to create a 3D platformer collectathon, in the vein of Mario 64, which came out 2 years prior. Rare have also developed some other games such as Donkey Kong Country, GoldenEye, and It's Mr. Pants. However, today I don't want to talk about the technical triumphs or the outstanding artistic achievement at the time that bagged the studio quite a few awards. No, today I want to discuss an idea that I have been toying around with for a while now, something which stemmed from my observation of speedrunning and more directly how players can replay linear games over and over. I haven't replayed Banjo Kazooie. In fact, I have only just completed it this week for the first time. It took me just under 17 hours for people curious. But what I noticed whilst playing is how Banjo Kazooie not only encourages the player to re-explore its worlds, but thrives when the player does so. The aim of the game, as you may have guessed from the genre I described the game as earlier, is to collect items, specifically items called Gs. There are 10 per world, and 10 worlds to find them in. 9 are actual worlds, whilst 1 is a hub world. These Jiggies are used to unlock more worlds and eventually the final boss. You also need to find items called notes as well. These allow you to progress through the hub world as long as you have enough, that is. There are 900 throughout the game, so much more plentiful than Jiggies. Now, unlike, for example, Super Mario Odyssey, the only other 3D collectathon that I have completed, as to be honest, I'm not a massive fan of the genre, you need almost every single Jiggy in the game to complete. 94 out of 100 to be exact. Which isn't something that you are aware of at the start of the game. Just to bring it back to Odyssey again, in that game you collect these things called power moons to power your ship to get to the next world, similar to how Banjo Kazooie works. However, in order to complete the base game, you only need a shockingly small percentage of moons. 124 out of 999. As a percentage, that is just 12.41%. Now I hope I don't have to do the math for you when it comes to the amount of Jiggies you need to complete Banjo Kazooie, but just in case, it's 94%. Now, because I played Super Mario Odyssey first, and not second, this led to a hell of a lot of backtracking, and a hell of a lot of revisiting worlds I had already spent hours in. And I had never said, nor will I say, that that was a bad thing. Sure, some of the worlds were not the best experience first time, or second time around. Clankers, Bubblegum, and Rusty spring to mind, but luckily I had collected everything that I needed to collect in the last two in any case. This, however, was just due to my aversion of the horrible colour palette that these worlds sported. I understand that it was most likely due to technical limitations and making sure the duo Banjo and Kazooie would stand out to most if not all people, no matter the degree of colour blindness that the players may have had. But in some cases it really affected the level design. This pole, for example, that both was assigned the same colour as the wall behind it, as well as the same texture as two non-climbable objects to the left and the right of it. The worst singular part of the game. Anyway, off that tangent and back onto what the video is about. This video is about how you can create games and subsequently worlds that the player wants to re-explore. This can be done in many ways and using design theory that establishes what other games have done in the past. But first, I think hearing it from Greg Males might have more impact. I wanted players to become immersed in Banjo's worlds. My way of doing this was to start with relatable themes and content so players believed it could exist, then exaggerate reality to desired eclectic and twisted fairy tale tone. Once in the world, I wanted players to decide when they left it, not the game, so being able to explore and string together multiple Jiggies was a really important directive in maintaining immersion. An article from Red.co.uk that was published last year as more of an advert for Sea of Thieves than an actual interview. However, we can gauge a few things from what Greg stated in that interview. One, giving the player the ability to leave the world whenever they wanted was paramount. First off, it's because it adheres to the most important rule in game design, designing a game as such that the player cannot blame the game over themselves, but also it gives the player freedom to explore at their leisure, and that is what I personally think is the best part about collectathons, being able to play at my own pace, exploring these intricately designed worlds and finding a Jiggy in a place I would not have thought to look if I had rushed through it. And that brings me on to my next point. Due to that 94% number, due to the fact that you have to really dig deep into each world the game has to offer to find every Jiggy possible, learning its individual logic and secrets really makes for a strong connection between the player and the world. And that connection is what makes coming back to those worlds so rewarding, and not only that, but so emotionally powerful as well. For example, I had over 90 minutes on the second world of the game, Treasure Trove Cove, a time which, I have been told, is way above average in terms of minutes dedicated to that level. Now, that coupled with me only spending 30 minutes on the first world meant that, at the time, I had really spent a long amount of time in that world, unable to find the last piece. This made for a truly horrible experience for the first time around. Treasure Trove Cove was definitely the world I had almost quit playing the game in, but allowing me to exit the world whenever I wanted, coupled with my experience with Odyssey beforehand, saved the overall experience. However, that was all well and truly worth it, because when I returned to Treasure Trove Cove, after getting to the final boss and needing that final Jiggy that I wasn't able to get the first time around, I had faced all the trials and much harder levels as the game progressed, allowing me to have a much more relaxing and honestly sentimental time with the game. I strolled around the world, jumping over enemies, not really bothered if I got hit or not due to the extra health I had picked up. Eventually I came across the puzzle which led to the final Jiggy being found. Despite there being nearly 15 hours of game time between me leaving that world and returning to it, I still remembered everything I had experienced. And not only that, I felt like a much better player than I once did, which is such a strong feeling to be able to evoke in a player. I cannot overstate how powerful that is. In fact, that is the point of this video. People love returning to games, or worlds, or tasks, or whatever, time and time again because they are simply better at it. They have improved, and getting confirmation of your improved state is beyond satisfying. This can include anything from people spending thousands of hours speedrunning the same game over and over just to shave off a second on their time, to me, playing Portal for the 4th time the other day, just because I wanted to. To be honest, I can't see myself returning to Banjo Kazooie in the future, but if I do, just based off my experiences returning to Treasure Trove Cove, or Freezeezy Peak, or even the different seasonal states of Click Clop Wood, I know I would have fun. Thank you so much for watching this video essay on Banjo Kazooie, and more specifically, on why exploration is important to longevity in video games. If you enjoyed the video, any support on it will be incredible, from clicking the like button to sharing it with your friends, to subscribing and hitting the notification bell. I also want to point out that I have my own studio, Crab Studios. We are a tabletop game developer, and are currently doing a giveaway. If you would like to get a copy of our board game before the Kickstarter launches in January, please head over to the top link in the description and become a fan of or wish list our game on Board Game Geek. Thank you once more, and I shall see you in the next video.